Tonight, the close call on the runway at Midway Airport. The scary scene in Chicago. A Southwest jet comes in for a landing and then pulls up to avoid hitting another plane. The entire thing caught on camera. How it happened and why it's just the latest unnerving incident rattling flyers in America's skies. More than 20 DOGE staffers resign over concerns for whether Americans' data is being compromised. It comes as there are new protests on Capitol Hill. And now even some Republican lawmakers are warning the White House to slow down on deep cuts. The stunning ruling from the Supreme Court. First, the court blocked the execution of Richard Glossip. Now it's ordering a new trial, one of the most closely watched death row cases in America, and what Glossip once told me. Opening statements in the hate crime case had provoked outrage. A landlord accused of killing a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy, shutting their doors, crafting giant Joanne, closing all their locations, and why it could be the worst year ever for brick and mortar retailers overall, with 15,000 stores forecast to close nationwide. High stakes, cattle prices hit new records as beef prices soar and herds dwindle. And there's good news tonight, the touching experience for basketball fans enjoying the game like never before.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. In any context, the sight of two planes on a collision course would rattle even the most seasoned flyer. But think about it, against the backdrop of a string of aerial catastrophes and near catastrophes, what happened on the runway at Chicago's Midway Airport this morning is drawing deep concern. Recorded by an airport surveillance camera, the video shows a Southwest Airlines jet on its final landing approach. When just as it's about to touch the ground, a small business jet rolls right into its path. The quick reacting Southwest crew averting potential disaster, climbing their jet above and out of harm's way, and returning for a safe landing. Tonight, the FAA says the business jet entered the runway without authorization. The frightening episode, one in a series of seemingly unconnected aviation incidents that had many people asking, what is going on? Aaron McLaughlin has our report.
Tonight at Chicago's Midway International Airport, an investigation after yet another stunningly close call. The video captured on an airport webcam shows Southwest Flight 2504 nearly touching down. The same moment a private jet crosses the runway. The flight abruptly pulls up, averting potential disaster.
Southwest 2504 going around.
It was surreal.
Passengers Emily Novak and Kaylee Mask were on board the Southwest flight from Omaha. What went through your mind when you saw the video?
Shock.
Yeah.
Because we were so oblivious to what was happening because the pilot was so calm and he acted like it was just an everyday, thing.
The FAA says the Flexjet private jet entered the runway without authorization. Flexjet released a statement saying it's investigating and adheres to the highest safety standards. Meanwhile, Southwest says its crew followed safety procedures, circled the airport, and landed safely. It's the latest in a string of air disasters and mishaps. From the midair collision that killed 67 near Reagan National Airport to the air disaster in Philadelphia, a crash landing in Toronto, and most recently, an emergency landing after a cabin filled with haze over Atlanta.
The circumstances have been quite different in each one of these accidents or incidents, so it's still too early to draw a common thread through all of them.
All of it rattling travelers nationwide. From a consumer confidence standpoint, are we nearing a tipping point?
No, I don't think we're nearing a tipping point, but aviation is still incredibly safe, and hopefully this is not the beginning of some long-term trend.
Aaron, let me ask you, as these things go, how serious was this latest incident?
Lester, experts tell us near misses fall into different categories, and while the investigation into today's incident is still ongoing, the expert we spoke with says this could be a Class A near miss, the most serious kind. He says Class A near misses are extremely rare and have actually been declining in recent years. Lester?
Aaron McLaughlin, thank you. Tonight, the White House says 1 million federal workers have sent in a list of 5 things they accomplished last week, part of a directive from Elon Musk, as 21 members of the DOGE team have abruptly stepped down, posting a scathing resignation letter. Garrett Hake now with late details.
Tonight, President Trump doubling down on his efforts to slash the size of the federal workforce after facing new backlash over moves by Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. All of it centering over confusion over Musk's new post that federal workers will get a, quote, second chance to email a list of 5 accomplishments from last week or face termination. While the administration's Office of Personnel Management has also told agency heads that sending the email is voluntary.
Mr. President, can you clarify, hopefully once and for all, what your expectations are with this email to federal employees? What are you going to use that information for? And do you see it as voluntary, like OPM has said, or mandatory?
Well, it's somewhat voluntary, but it's also, if you don't answer, I guess you get fired. What it really is, do people exist? We have this massive government with millions of people, and nobody knows who's working for the government, who's not. I could tell you 5 things I did last week. I could tell you 5 things I did 6 weeks ago, right?
Is he speaking for you when he says you'll be terminated?
Yeah, everybody speaks for me. I'm the one, I'll take responsibility. You know the old statement, the buck stops here, right?
Meanwhile, today, 21 members of the U.S. Digital Service, the agency that Musk turned into the Department of Government Efficiency, resigned, posting online that they won't use their technical expertise to, quote, compromise core government systems, jeopardize Americans' sensitive data, or dismantle critical public services. A person familiar with the letter confirmed its authenticity to NBC News, but the staffers who signed it did not identify themselves. Musk responding, quote, these were Dem political holdovers who refused to return to the office. They would have been fired had they not resigned. It follows this protest over Musk's moves at a town hall meeting in a Republican district in Missouri. GOP Congressman Mark Alford supporting the president's efforts to downsize the federal government, but criticizing Musk's approach.
My district is firmly behind what President Trump is doing and what DOGE is doing. I do think there are some valid concerns about the speed that this is happening.
Democrats blasting the Musk cost-cutting efforts.
Under Elon Musk and his so-called Department of Government Efficiency, federal health agencies have suffered mass layoffs. Here's our message to Speaker Johnson and President Musk. Enough is enough.
Republicans pointing to today's new GAO report showing since 2003, the federal government incorrectly sent out $2.8 trillion in taxpayer money in improper payments.
I think the vast majority of the American people understand and applaud and appreciate the DOGE effort, the goal to scale down the size and scope of government.
Garrett, President Trump also made headlines tonight when you pressed him about Ukraine.
That's right, Lester. President Trump saying that a deal on rare earth minerals designed to repay the U.S. for military aid to Ukraine is close. And he also dismissed comments from the Kremlin that European peacekeepers would not be acceptable to Russia, saying there would have to be a peacekeeping force of some kind in Ukraine. Lester?
Okay, Garrett, thank you. Now to the impact of the Trump administration's cuts to the federal bureaucracy, with thousands of government workers in limbo. Gabe Gutierrez has more on that.
From Ann Pullman in Indiana, who lost her job as a national park tractor operator.
It's been an emotional roller coaster.
To Joe Cardiello in Colorado, who's now out of work as a CDC researcher.
They need to be training someone for years to get the right experience.
The Trump administration's slashing of the federal government workforce is hitting home far beyond the nation's capital. Some 80% of the federal workforce is outside D.C.
Chaos would be probably the best word for it.
In Pennsylvania, union leader David Demas represents hundreds of workers at the United States Penitentiary Canaan who are torn about how to respond to Elon Musk's directive to list 5 things they accomplished last week.
I don't think we should have to justify what we do.
Caleb Bryant is an Air Force veteran who worked at the VA as a supply technician, restocking ICUs until yesterday.
I feel let down.
When you saw that email, what went through your head?
I was really just in shock, honestly. Because I never had an issue with my job.
She says she received the email just 20 minutes after submitting her 5 bullet points detailing her accomplishments.
This is affecting real people. My job is essential, and I am a veteran. I serve this country, and I don't want it to be all for nothing.
Erin Lovick was the chief technology officer at the National Cancer Institute, who says she had perfect scores on her performance evaluations.
It's been a very surreal experience.
On Valentine's Day, she was told to expect the dreaded email laying her off. She received it the next day.
What do you say to the people who voted for Donald Trump and who believe that government just got too big?
I can understand their concerns. And I think, there are certainly ways that one could look at trying to be more efficient, but I don't think this was that.
Musk is defending his directive for employees to list their accomplishments, saying it's routinely done in the private sector. And he's just asking federal workers to do what everyone else does. Lester?
All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you. Now to a story we've been following for a long time, the case of death row inmate Richard Glossop. In a rare move today, the Supreme Court tossed out his murder conviction and ruled he's entitled to a new trial. Here's Laura Jarrett.
He's been on death row for more than 20 years, but today the Supreme Court granted Richard Glossop a new trial.
I talked to Rich, and he is beyond thrilled. We've struggled through 9 execution dates and 3 last meals, and all Rich wanted was the truth to come out.
Convicted by a jury in Oklahoma for organizing the 1997 killing of his boss, Barry Van Treese, Glossop has always maintained his innocence. Lester spoke with him by phone in 2023.
Did you have anything to do with the murder of Barry Van Treese?
I did not.
Independent reviews of the case commissioned by state officials finding the prosecution destroyed key evidence before Glossop's trial and failed to correct false testimony from a key witness, prompting a rare concession from Oklahoma's Attorney General that Glossop's conviction should be overturned. Lester sitting down back in 2023 with 2 conservative lawmakers fighting on Glossop's behalf, just as news broke that the Supreme Court had agreed to hear the case and stop Glossop's execution.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The justices today concluding in a divided opinion the prosecution violated its constitutional obligation to Glossop. But an attorney for the victim's family says they remain undeterred.
The family members are confident that when there's a retrial in this case, it will clearly show that Glossop is guilty of first-degree murder.
As for what comes next here, Lester, the DA's office saying it has actually formed a committee to review all cases eligible for the death penalty, and no decisions about Mr. Glossop's case will be done until that work is complete. Lester?
Laura Jarrett, thank you. Today, the murder trial began for an Illinois landlord accused of the hate crime death of a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy. Maggie Vespa was in court for the emotional first day of testimony.
Tonight in suburban Chicago, the hate crime trial for the man charged with the vicious murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy, Wadia Al-Fayumi, is underway, with his mother, Hanan Shaheen, testifying in the days following the October 7, 2023 attacks by Hamas. Her landlord of 2 years, Joseph Shuba, told her, "Your people is killing Jewish and babies in Israel. Muslim are not welcome here, not in my home." Days later, screaming, "You are not doing anything about it." She added, "I told him to pray for peace." Shaheen testifying the 71-year-old attacked, strangling and stabbing her, telling her son who was watching he'd raise him, quote, "But don't tell people I killed your mom." Shaheen testified she fought Shuba off and ran to the bathroom. That's when she said he attacked Wadia, stabbing him, prosecutors say, 26 times, leaving the knife in the boy. Her attorney speaking on her behalf.
Wadia was a completely innocent, defenseless little boy whose only crime was being Palestinian and being Muslim.
Prosecutors say Shuba's wife told investigators he'd been listening to conservative talk radio about the war. Shuba's pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder and hate crime charges. His attorneys questioning Shaheen's account of the attack, telling the jury police assumed he was guilty even though he was outside of the residence unarmed. Advocates pushing for the maximum sentence, life in prison.
So we can send a message that hate crimes against anyone on the basis of their religion and national origin are not tolerated.
Emotions in that courtroom running high. One juror tearing up watching body camera video from a police officer who testified about finding the little boy's body. Lester.
All right, Maggie Vespa, thank you. In 60 seconds, first it was eggs, but now beef prices are skyrocketing even faster than inflation. How cattle prices are impacting the cost at the grocery store. Next. By now, you know egg prices are up, but the cost of your next burger or steak may be too. Beef prices are on the rise with multiple issues hitting ranchers. Our Morgan Chesky has more in our series, The Price You Pay.
On his California cattle ranch,
come on, girls.
Kevin Kester says he's just trying to stay afloat.
Biggest challenge we're facing right now is the cost of doing business.
The fifth-generation rancher now operates with half the cattle he used to have.
The lifeblood of your family essentially runs right through this herd.
It does. This is our lifeline. We don't have anything else.
He'd love to rebuild his herd, but says he's been forced to sell off cattle due to drought. Now Castor and ranchers nationwide are caught in a supply and demand struggle, driving beef prices up. The contributing causes converging. The industry facing rising interest rates, high grain prices, and a shrinking U.S. cattle inventory, the smallest it's been since 1951.
Ranchers and cattle processors are facing really high costs to do business right now, and so that means the beef that we buy at the grocery store is ultimately going to be more expensive.
Popular cuts like USDA sirloin steaks now near record highs. Ground beef as well, selling for 43% more than 5 years ago. This on top of the increase in egg prices hitting consumers due to the avian flu. The average price of eggs up 53% compared to a year ago. Back on the ranch, Castor says they've weathered storms before, but this one hits different.
I'm optimistic about the future, but it's going to take a lot of hard work in order to make our business, our family operations successful for the future generations.
And tonight, relief could be a ways off for both consumers and ranchers, with experts saying it's not going to take months but years before herds nationwide can grow to where they can better meet demand. Lester?
All right, Morgan Chesky in California tonight. Thanks. We are back in a moment with a retail reckoning. Why a record number of stores are expected to close this year, including some of the biggest names for shoppers. All right, we're back now with what is a mounting moment of reckoning for the retail industry. Christine Romans reports on the expectation is that a stunning number of brick and mortar stores will close this year.
For people who love to shop at Joann, the fabric store with about 800 locations around the U.S., time is running out.
I just finished a quilt and I said, oh my God, where am I going to go now?
You like to go in and touch and feel and look and colors, see if it matches things when you're making stuff. You can't do that online.
But now the one-time largest fabrics retailer in the country, which has some 19,000 employees, is closing all of its stores.
I'm going to be sorry to see this go.
It's just part of what's expected to be a record-setting year of 15,000 retail store closures, with Party City, Big Lots, Walgreens, and Macy's just some of the companies shuttering locations.
We've got policy upheaval with tariffs. We've got demand upheaval in terms of competition.
John Mercer is the head of global research at Coresight, a firm focused on technology's impact on retail.
It's not how much consumers are spending, it's all the other factors around retail.
Yeah, we think it's the context. We think consumer spending is pretty strong. It's where that spending goes.
Massive summer sheen haul.
He says online discount retailers like Temu and Shein are eating into many brick and mortar businesses as shoppers grow frustrated with poor customer service and locked up goods in stores. They're also chasing the cheapest prices. Adding to the trouble for retailers, Americans are growing more pessimistic about the economy. The Consumer Confidence Index released today down almost 7%, the biggest monthly decline in almost 4 years. Record number of store closures expected this year raises the question, what's to become of the real estate occupied by the retailers in all this upheaval? Lester?
All right, Christine, thank you. When we come back, the Trailblazers in Portland, how a new device is helping some fans enjoy basketball like never before. There is good news tonight about the NBA's Portland Trailblazers and some groundbreaking technology helping some fans experience every play. Steve Patterson reports.
It's a big night for Hank Vogel.
What's wrong, Raven?
The 11-year-old is ready to watch an NBA game with his family.
Do you have the headphones?
Hank is visually impaired, but thanks to his hometown team, the Portland Trailblazers, all the action is right at his fingertips. This haptic tablet relays game data by touch and sound so Hank can follow in real time. And when his favorite player hits a big three, the celebration is electric.
Like to actually be in the arena and like experience it with everybody else. I almost felt like I was like a regular person. I don't know quite how to explain it.
We're doing a translation of the game from a very visual format into a tactile format that's accessible.
Jared Mace and his team of engineers designed the one-court tablet, which translates gameplay into complex vibrations. Users can follow every movement of the ball.
And as you feel vibrations like move out of frame, you can shift your hands and start to follow it.
The goal, expanding the tech to other sports. An automated audio feed narrates the action.
Shot. Scored.
How hard was that vibration?
It's just like, ah! It's like, oh, okay. So that's what happened.
Give me the Hank review. Like, what do you think?
I definitely experienced the game way better than I would have because I can kind of have a sense of what's going on.
So no Blazer fan, this is out on a big moment.
To see him be able to really enjoy it in a different way was cool.
Now, this family bonding over a brand new feel for the game. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Portland.
A real super fan. That's nightly news for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.